Have you heard about those new adventurers? The ones who just smash their way through every encounter. You haven't? Well, you should look into them. Everybody's talking about them. You could say they're all the rage right now. Welcome to Rebel Then King. Today, we are talking about the beast, the brute, the ubiquitous, the Barbarian. As always, let's start with the basics of the class. Barbarians are strength-based, using strength as their key ability score. They're trained in simple and in martial weapons and have light and medium armor proficiency. They get a whopping 12 hit points per level, and they are trained in a number of skills equal to 3 plus their intelligence modifier, which, let's face it, is not gonna be very good. There are 6 subclasses, which are called instincts. You've got the animal, the dragon, the fury, the giant, the spirit, and the superstition instinct. And each of these provides some mechanical differences in encounters and in combat, but they also give you great role-playing hooks to help you build out your barbarian character. If we're going to talk about barbarians, we have to talk about rage. It's what they do. It's what powers them. It's what is powering me after I realized I filmed this entire video without the audio on and am now doing it again. So what is rage to a barbarian? Rage is a pretty simple action they can take to set them into sort of a frenzied manic state. While they are in this state, they deal extra damage. The default is 2 extra points of damage, but many of the barbarian instincts actually offer more than that. The draconic rage, for example, gives you 4 points of damage, and the giant instinct is the heaviest hitting, giving you 6 extra points of damage per strike. And this is bonus damage. This is on top of your probably D12 Great Axe or Maul, and on top of your +4 strength that you're going to be adding to your hits, which means you're often doing a minimum of 8 or 11 minimum points of damage per strike. And that is often more than the maximum that some of the other players are going to be able to do. It is just that powerful. So rage is no joke, but do you know what is? How often a barbarian is gonna get hit. Because let me tell you, while a barbarian is so focused on offense while raging, they are not looking out for their defense, and their armor class actually drops by 1. When you combine this with the upfront play style of many barbarian builds, you are creating a character who is just going to get hit a lot, and it's going to take a lot of resources from the entire party to keep them in the fight. But rage does give a barbarian a tool to deal with that lowered AC in the form of temporary hit points. You see, while raging, a barbarian is granted temp hit points equal to their level plus their constitution modifier. And this means they can typically absorb a couple of blows before they dig into their actual hit points and require healing. This does mean that Constitution is a very, very, very key secondary stat for a barbarian, so don't skimp on it. I know a lot of barbarian players want to not just deal strength damage, so they're looking for charisma or wisdom to add dimension to their character, and sometimes this comes at the cost of Constitution. Don't skimp on Con. You are going to need those temp hit points to make it through your encounters. Okay, and let's go back to making fun of barbarians, because while they are raging, they are dumb. Dumb, I tell you. Specifically, they're so focused on offense, again, that they can't take any actions that have the concentrate trait. Now, there are a lot of actions that fall under this category in Pathfinder, and I think this somewhat easy to miss rule is one of the things I see frustrating Barbarian players the most, specifically the demoralize action. The Barbarian is thinking, and rightfully so, I'm a big, ferocious beast on the battlefield. I should be able to scare my enemies. But the demoralize action does have the concentrate trait, which means you can't do it while raging. That is, unless you take the Raging Intimidation Barbarian feat. This feat adds the rage trait to the demoralize action, allowing you to demoralize while raging. There's also a more general Barbarian feat called Moment of Clarity. This allows you to take a moment, clear your head, and then perform any action with the concentrate trait. And both of these are really good options for opening up your Barbarian gameplay. So, what's it like to play as, or maybe even alongside a Barbarian? Well, first of all, because it's relatively simple and very effective, it is a great choice for beginners. It's also a good class for combining the mechanics with roleplay. It's not hard to imagine a character who gets so mad about their circumstances that they fly off the handle and just smash everything in sight, right? And even your instinct can be used to sort of inform your character's backstory. Maybe you were abandoned in the woods as a child, and therefore you use the animal instinct. Or maybe you're a religious zealot who uses the spirit instinct. There are a lot of great roleplay hooks to be had. On the other hand, as an intermediate to maybe advanced player, you might find the Barbarian just a little bit limiting. I already covered how you can't use actions with the concentrate trait as a Barbarian, but one thing I didn't mention is that part of the rules state you can't voluntarily stop raging until there are no enemies that you can perceive. And this means that once you start raging, you're kind of on a narrow path of stride, strike, maybe grapple, and repeat. Already mentioned there are a few ways around this, which does open up your options. And maybe another thing you could consider is simply, not raging for the first round or two of combat. Maybe your character tries diplomacy first, or tries to recall knowledge and take the smart approach. But when that fails, that's what sets them off, that's what sends them into a rage, and that's what gets the enemy's heads rolling. So, what's it like to play alongside a Barbarian? Well, I often think of the Barbarian as being sort of a cannon, which makes the rest of the party the cannoneers who need to make sure that that weapon keeps operating. And what this means, first of all, is you've got to keep your Barbarian alive. And how can you do that? Well, you can try buffing their AC for one. I play as an Abjuration Wizard who has access to the Protective Ward focus spell. This raises my and nearby allies' AC by 1, offsetting that penalty that the Barbarian has. You could be a Witch with the Lesson of Protection, or a Bard with Inspired Defense, or any caster with Forbidding Ward. You could also intercept damage. You could, of course, be a Champion. This is a great class to pair alongside a Barbarian. There are also spellcasting options for intercepting damage, like the Protector Tree or Shattering Gem spells. I use Shattering Gem in my wizard build, and it is really, really fun. And then, of course, you can heal your Barbarian. Use potions, elixirs, consumables. You can be a caster who has access to heal or soothe spells. You can use battle medicine or any other healing feat that might be available to your class, like the Goodberry focus spell for a druid, or maybe the Searing Restoration that an inventor has access to. A great thing about Pathfinder is it does give healing options to just about every character class, so use those to keep your Barbarian in the fight. Keeping your Barbarian alive is great, but you don't want to just stop there. I think of it as you don't just want the cannon to fire, you want the cannon to fire at the right place and at the right time. And the way to do this is to use a lot of the great teamwork options that the Pathfinder system offers you. For example, on your turn, you could demoralize a creature to drop its AC. you could get into a flanking position to drop its AC even further, and then you could aid your Barbarian. If all of that works out, you would grant the Barbarian a +4 total swing in their favor on their next strike. This gives them a great chance to hit and a pretty darn good chance to crit. And believe me, when a Barbarian crits, everything is gonna die. Well, honestly, that's about it. It's a really simple and effective class. And I know I'm saying simple even though I went back and forth about the good and bad and the complexity and the parts of the rules you didn't read when it pertains to Rage, but I promise you, even as a beginner, you'll be able to pick up this class and have fun right away. As an intermediate player, you will be able to pick up new feats that keep you engaged with your character throughout the whole campaign. And I think for these reasons, the Barbarian is just one of the most commonly seen classes at gaming tables. Really, the question is there anybody out there who hasn't played as a Barbarian, or at least played with one in their party? I mean, I gotta give the Barbarian a pretty darn good score. I think I'll give them 9 out of 10 squashed goblins, right? I mean, it seems with good reason that the Barbarian is often the cornerstone of any adventuring party, and it's certainly one of the most iconic classes in the game and really in the overall fantasy tabletop RPG gaming environment. You could say it's a smashing success.